Welcome to this lovely episode of the All in Focus podcast with me, Kolawole Ibikule. I am excited to speak to my next guest because we've been friends. I put that way for probably the longest. And that's how I will put it. And she get an opportunity to introduce herself now. Her name is Doing Solar Rehanat Yusuf. And I don't know. She probably would say if she still uses you if she still uses Yusuf or not. But that's how I remember her. And we've been I've known Yusuf for at least 15 years now, I think. And there's always been that personal sense of responsibility I felt for her. Mostly be, mostly because of a couple of things we probably would get into, but I think I'm talking too much. Yusuf is a doctor in the UK. She is a pediatrics specialist, and I think I'll just hi. How do you usually introduce yourself? I think I've done what I think I can.
Oh, to be honest, you've mentioned all of my name. And yes, to answer that, I still use Yusuf. So I think most people from med school probably know me as doing Yusuf, but I go by the whole thing now, Rihanna doing Salah Yusuf, but mostly like in the UK, people call me Rihanna because that's my first name. So yeah.
Yeah. So I was just saying just before I started recording that it has been a while since I spoke to you. I think not for anything, but I think it's just because you've been pretty busy and life sort of changed in the last 3 4 years. I think
Mhm.
for you a lot, and I think that's where I want to start, which is of course, in the last 3 4 years, and I'm guessing now, things have changed for you substantially. You've gone from how I remember you as a very young, um, little person who I felt was fragile. Like, okay, yes, we need to protect this this person, and that is my sort of feeling. And I looking back now, I think it could not have been more wrong because you had a lot more stamina than I think I had, and you could withstand a lot more things that I think. So I think it was supposed to be the other way around. You protecting me rather than me having a sense of responsibility to do that. But how did you know, how has that changed given that you now have to, look after like a full-fledged family? You have like a little handsome little kid at least. And then you are the commander in chief of your household. So basically you are looking after two human beings at the moment. How has that changed going from that persona of okay, I'm small, I'm fragile, no one should disturb me, to actually being in command of your home? How has that changed for you?
Um, I think to be fair, maybe to backtrack a bit, to answer the question of you always having the sense of protecting me. And I think, so many people that know me, like I have that, maybe they have that expression of me. And yes, maybe I like that part. But I think to then answer your question of how, we all have to go of, isn't it? It's not the doing back then that was like, oh, please leave me alone. No, my mother sent me to medical school to come and study and not like do all this shenanigans, be all of those things. I just want to finish. I just want to graduate and all of those things. But I think it's more about, living our comfort, well, personally, living my comfort back home and then moving here and then, transitioning from, being just a one-man person, one map of, I didn't have to like be responsible for anyone. I only had to look, after my own self, after my own, well-being and all of those things, then getting married and then the also boss of the UK and then having a child. Yeah, yes. So, but I think we all just transition really well. it might be something that you probably don't know that you're capable of until you actually find yourself in that situation. So personally, for me, that's how I see it. I wouldn't, I probably wouldn't ever think of, yes, I would, support people and all of those things if they need my support. But I didn't see myself being actually responsible, for a whole human being. Forget about my husband. Like he can take care of himself. But like you said, like I'm the woman and I have to like look after all of our well-being. I think when we find ourselves inside that situation, we would actually, we will get to it. We will just move on, just like we did, when we were young. We didn't just start off like we went from primary school to secondary school, then independently to university, and we looked after each other like we were our own person. So the same thing would be when you find yourself being transitioning into adulthood and then looking after a young person and all of those things. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think it just comes, and then you take it one day, one step at a time. I take it one day at a time. Like when I had to go back to work and everyone was asking, are you sure you want to come back to full time? Like even my TPDs, everyone, my friends was like, yeah, I would come back full time because what would I do if I don't come back full time? So I just went along with it, and here we are. Like how many years post maternity now? We're still rocking
Yeah.
it, still moving
Yeah.
on. So
Yeah. And I want to dig a bit deeper in there, but I think that's a bit for later. One thing I wanted to get out of the way was recently, I think when I was trying to get you on here, you did mention that you had like an interview.
oh
And
yeah.
how did that go, by the way? Sorry.
Oh, well, we shall say. I felt like, I could have done better in some stations, but you know what? Sometimes we don't give, ourselves the accolades. Coming this
Yeah,
far,
yeah.
getting to that particular,
Yeah, that's one thing I just wanted to mention. I'm sure you will turn out great. I'm sure you turn out greater than you actually thought.
yeah,
But
hope
m-
so.
where I was leading to was what was your thought? And this is partly serious. What's your thought? Because I've gone back and forth on this new medical, the prioritization bill, the that one. What are your thoughts on that? Let me tell you my thoughts. I think it is. When I first saw it, I thought it was unfair. That was my opinion. Because and the excuse most people are given to say is that there's nowhere in the world, even in Nigeria, that that they don't prioritize their graduates. But then, if I wanted that kind of system, I probably would have stayed back in Nigeria. That was my thought, and that's how I am thinking about it. You understand? Here, you come with a promise of, and you probably know this more than me. You are the consummate hard worker. You come here with the fact or with the thought that if you just do a lot of hard work, then it's not going to be, there's not going to be any other criteria apart from like your hard work. You tick the boxes. You say you do the right things. You compromise when you're supposed to. And we do a lot of compromise here. You compromise where you're going to, but then there should be no other barrier, you understand, for you to actually get where you need to go, take the next step. It should not matter if you're Hausa or Igbo or Yoruba. You're applying to OHTHC, for instance, or FMC Zamfara, for instance. You understand, it should not matter. That's the promise that the UK holds. And if you now say that you're going to put an extra barrier down there, it just felt to me that it was unfair, especially for people who were already in the system. Of course, it, I don't think it would apply to GP because most people don't do it. But you understand, for people who are already in the system, it did not feel fair to me, and I see people who support it in some sort of way. How did you feel about it?
So if I'm going to be fair, like I don't think there's like a way to it. There would always be like a wrong. Some people would feel offended at the long run, and some people would feel like, what, I benefited from this. And I'm not going to I'm not going to lie. I probably sit on the other way to you. And I say that looking at what you said, when you first opened statement to say, yeah, people say even back home. And I personally, and I probably shouldn't, I'm probably not in the best, place or position to be saying it because I'm not going to lie. I have, I found favor, like, from when I left medical school to living Southwest and going to the Northwestern Nigeria, and then, doing my internship there, serving there, and actually being recruited there. So I worked there then before I moved to the UK. And looking at everything, and that is true, like they would prioritize an Hausa person before me, but I was favored. I always got chosen one way or the other. So I would say alhamdulillah to that. I think the same thing, that's the same mindset that brings me to this point to say, you know what? It's probably not fair. And some people hearing me will be like, you maybe because you are already in training. And I am grateful for that. Because you know what? If I was in Nigeria, I would not be doing pediatrics. And I actually love pediatrics, like back from, all the way from medical school and all of those things. I'll probably be doing family medicine or something in Nigeria because I couldn't go through, I saw what people, that were doing pediatrics training in Nigeria. I saw what they were going through. I saw what our registrars, our senior registrars were going through and all of those things. And I didn't see myself there. Um, but then I came to the UK, and like you said, the promise, the fact that if I do all the right thing, if I tick the boxes, if I do all the things that I'm, expected to do, I would get, I'll get a fair chance at competing with everyone. But if you look at it, and I have gotten that chance, I'm not gonna, and like I said, I'm probably not in the best position to say it, looking at the fact that it's not affecting me. And I really, really apologize that other people feel like that, especially people that have, you know, we've all gone through a lot to come to this country. It's a lot of money. And compared to when we came, how much was naira to pounds? And compared to how much naira to pounds, like you need millions of naira. I didn't need millions of naira to do plab when I came here. And I had friends when I came here. Like I had Yola, like she supported me and all of those things. You get what I'm saying? But if you look at it, yeah, these people, I went to medical school, like loan free. I'm not owing anyone. My
Mm,
parents, and it's the same thing to all of us, even though most of us, it's
mm,
not like our parents were really rich and all of those things. Yeah. They were all just they just wanted to make sure that we have like a very stable, steady platform so that we can then rise and
mm,
support our siblings or our family, whatever pattern we all choose to do. But I have seen these people, and honestly, 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 most of them are struggling. We like I look at them, and this is me. I haven't sat, I have examined medical students and all of those things. I've been an examiner and all of those things. But when they come, like when they put all of us in a pool, they are in debt. I'm not in debt. Like I didn't owe anyone before I came here. And yes, right now, people that are coming, trying to come here because of, the exchange rate, they are owing someone as well. But they are in like thousands of pounds. And then you can imagine when they finish their F1, F2, which is the probably only stable thing in the
mm,
first 2 years of them being graduating. And then they get pulled in, they all get pulled into the same pool with us. And then they're out of job. Even locum, there's no locum. Most of them didn't even want to go into training initially. They all want to do like F4, F3, and all of those things because they want to get more money. They want to be able to like, because this country, everyone prioritize their mental health, isn't it? We are the crazy people that just want to get things done. Pam, 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 pam. I want to finish, I must finish. They are into them. Like I met, like I've met a couple of F2s who says, you know what, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like I'm having to move back into my parents' house because I cannot afford, you know, to rent an accommodation. Because if I do rent, what if I don't get a job? What if I don't get like the next locum to pay for my bills? So maybe is the best thing. Maybe, you know, for them. And this is me, like I said, this is me putting it into a pot of, you know what, I am a fair person. I always want to think about, the next person. But at the same time, I'm not speaking for my own people like as well, because we are having to like cross a lot of order to come here as well. So like I said, either ways that they go, it would not be fair to some people and it will be fair to some people. It will be fair to some people and it would not be fair to some people. But
Mm.
the truth is, we've come here and I think they should be prioritized. That is my honest truth. That's the only thing that I think, like looking at everything, looking at the fact that we are now, coming and then we are leaving our own country and, coming to like struggle, like draw, it's me, it's yours, is all of those things. I,
Yeah.
but I'm not saying I'm right. And I'm not saying other people are not, their opinion doesn't matter because we all have a
No,
right to
no,
our
no, no.
opinion after all.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think
But that's how I feel. I just feel like
I
they are broke, like they are. I don't know. We have that support back home. I'm not going to lie. Like I could remember when I was coming here, like when we were moving here, and
mm,
that was after I'd booked the wrong flight and I couldn't get my money back. I like from the airport, I called my mom and I was like,
mm,
because I didn't have any more money in my account to book another flight. And I needed to be in the UK because I'd already been booked into, a course that I needed to do for a
mm,
week. So there
mm.
was no way I was going back to like try and reschedule my flight and all
Your
of those things.
start
It
date
wasn't
and
possible.
everything.
So I called my mom and said, you know what? I need to book another ticket for me and my husband. And my husband called, his own siblings. And you know what? Right there, caller, like our parents, our family gathered 1 million naira for us. We have that. I don't feel like majority of them have that. They all have to pay that. Does that make sense? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely,
So that
absolutely.
is my thought about it. Like I said, I was sitting down like we were going to hand over, and one of the consultants was saying that, oh, there is like maybe one of the HCAs or something or ward clerks in our clinic, and she's always talked about this, this our loving son that was going to graduate medical school and was going to be a doctor and all of those things. And then he's graduated now. He's had his F1, he's had his F2, and he's having to like move back to his parents' house because he doesn't know what the next year holds for him. He doesn't know if he was going to like she felt like that woman speaking with the consultant was literally depressed. Like I wasn't foreseeing this from I didn't want this for my child. I thought, when they become a doctor, they can't fend for themselves. I don't even need them to fend for me. I am okay. What I get, but I don't have to like look after them again. They can
Mm,
pay off their school loans, they can fend for themselves, enjoy their own life. So
mm,
they don't have that. Like that woman literally said, I can't support my child. The only thing I can provide for my child is for them to move back to their previous room,
mm,
where they used to be before they went to uni.
mm,
We
mm,
have that. Like even here, I can still call my sister. I can even though 1 pound is to 2,000 naira. If push come to push, I can
mhm,
still call my sister to say, Ogbenio, I need
mm.
this. Come on. And I'm not saying they don't have that. It's not everyone here too, but
Yes, yes,
we look at
yes,
that. Maybe they need to go back to that, like prioritize them, as they said, and then whatever is left, we would we were surviving before as well. We will
yeah,
survive. And maybe when things get, equalize and then stability, they'll go back to it again where we are all, being put into a pool and then we can all compete for the same job. I don't know. I don't know if I'm right, but
yeah. I think,
that's
I
what
think, I think it's a fantastic opinion. I don't think I thought about it as deeply as that, and I think you sort of touched on a lot more things that are not specifically you know related to, well, it's related, but it's broader than just the medical prioritization bill. You talked about how the societies are built, and how we tend to relate to our parents. And I think just specifically saying, like you mentioned a couple of times about like people having to move back to their house, their parents' houses. I'm not sure that's a big deal. To be fair, it's not a big deal for me. I'll gladly go back to my room if I need to.
big deal for
My room is,
us, but it
you
is for
understand?
them. Like
Yes,
they look forward to leaving their house at
yes,
16
yes.
years. We are
That's
not
what
allowed to do that back home.
that's what I'm saying. I think it has a lot to do with the
Society.
way the society is built as well. And I don't want to vlog this. I will soon move on because it's not um the 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 statistics now. shows that most of the the roles are actually filled by medical graduates from the UK. I did look at the statistics. All up so in some specialties upwards of 80%. So what most IMGs guess is around 20%. But just like you said, I think fairness can be you can look at fairness. You can look at fairness in two different directions, and it actually will mean two different things. Because I think it's fair, that everyone, as long as you're doing the same thing, you get opportunities to do the same. You get the opportunities to move forward, as long as you're doing the same thing. And you think it's fair because, of course, there are in a lot more debt. The society is a bit differently structured than what we have. And you know, whichever way, I think thank you for actually opening my eyes to see on that area. I think I was blinded by my own rage as to the unfairness from my side.
I'm blinded to that rage as well because my thought is, you know what, GMC, if you know that, because we were talking about it, if you know that there's no job for these people, stop taking their money.
Fair enough.
IETLs, stop taking their money.
Fair enough.
Because if there's no job, then why? There's still like a lot of flap two slots. They're still doing the same thing that they're doing during our set, where every day like is morning set and afternoon set. And it's like what 4 or 5 times in a week because I have one of the consultants where I work with. She's a GMC examiner and she was saying that she's an IMG as well. And she was saying the same thing to say they need to stop, putting that slot because there's no job.
Mm.
Even people in UK, like
Absolutely.
there's no job. GMC,
Absolutely.
it's a lot of money. Like how much is Plab 2 now? And how much is a Nigerian? Or like how much would they have to like, you know, change to be able to like afford that? So they need to stop as well. But you know
Yeah.
what? To each his own. I'm sure we are all adults and we don't all know what we want for ourselves. So some people just want UK as a stepping stone and then they move to something else.
Yeah.
So if that is it for some people, then
Mm.
that's but ultimately, I pray that we all, get what we want. We all, live the life that we've always hoped for, and
Yeah.
we all just
Absolutely.
get the best out of life. Either ways.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving on, but staying around that as well, which is I was trying to, actually called home trying to look for the MSSN or ARMS magazine that has this is leading somewhere, don't worry, that has the profile of medical graduates that we would normally do, and the profiles we would normally do profiles. Just because I couldn't find it, but I think I could remember yours correct because I was responsible for collecting ours. And he said something like, what you aim to be in the next couple of years. And you were very specific. You said something about you operating a private pediatric center or something like that in London. I don't know. I couldn't find it. If I find it, I'll send that to you. It had like a specific name. And I was just looking back and preparing for this. I was like, oh yeah, she nailed it. She nailed it. And that was as at that time, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was sure what I did not want to do, which was like O&G and like surgery, but I wasn't sure. But like the specificity and the work that you have put into it to get here now. I guess the question from that was one, I think you also mentioned it that like you like pediatrics. At what point did it stick for you that okay, yes, this is what I wanted to do, pediatrics specifically? And then just reflect a bit on how that journey has come and what you had to do to actually get here.
To be honest, I can't remember that one. I can't remember, but maybe I wouldn't have a private hospital now because you know what? If I do have a private hospital, I would end up like giving everything out for free. I don't feel like I have the capacity or I have the mindset of ever taking money from anyone. Like I think I'm just going to be one of those people that would work for the government wherever it is that I'm working for the rest of my life. I'm never going to have a private practice. But I'm going to go like a little bit emotional because for me, There always has to be something that makes me want to do something. That's number one. And then number two, I'm one of those people that if I really want to do something, it's just I would achieve it, but I might not. I can't take up a lot of things. I would finish achieving that thing before I can move on to other things. I think my own personality of, wanting to be a pediatrician just born down for my brother, and you probably know a little bit about him. So my younger brother, you did know that my younger brother had cerebral palsy, but for a long time, my parents didn't know that it was cerebral palsy. He has passed away now. Anyway, he passed out. I think yeah, he died when we were in our final years of medical school, and I'm sure most people didn't know, only people that were close to me. Most people probably thought, even in medical school, that it was just me and Miriam, that and those it was just the both of you. But people that knew me knew I had like a younger brother. There was a guy in between us. So our first lecture in pediatrics, that was when I knew my brother had cerebral palsy. And I then went back home because I think it went from, a lot of things. It could be this, it could be that. And then going into, oh, it was Down syndrome. But my brother didn't have like, my mom was young when he had my brother. But I know that's not the only thing anyway that could cause that. But my brother didn't have Down syndrome for sure. But then we had that lecture. And then I'm like, that is what it was. Because when my mom, when she tells us about the things that she goes through, like, when she was laboring for my younger brother, and then everything matched up together. And I remembered, because I don't know if you remember that I used to buy like a lot of textbooks. So my mom used to buy a lot of textbooks for me when we were back in medical school. Yeah. So I remember I went back home that weekend, took my Nelson home, and then I sat down with my mom and I was like, I opened better asphyxia, and then we read it together. And I was like, that's what happened to him. That's what my brother had. And from that moment on, I'm like, this is what I want to, because I got fascinated. I was really interested, like in every class, in everything that we did when we were in pediatrics. Then going back to, when we then had to do our clinicals, and then we're spending like years during that strike and shit. And I think yeah, some of us had to do like a lot of medicine, but I spent most of my time in pediatrics because then we were, both in Obomasho and Oshogbo and in Oshobo, and that got me like really interested. There were
Mm.
a lot of like nice people to us as well. Yes, there were like, some mean people, but there were like a lot of nice registrars, senior registrars and
Mm.
consultants. And I was like, well, you know what? That's what I want to do. I want to
Mm.
be that person. I want to like me. I probably wouldn't do neonates now. I enjoy it, but I wouldn't do it as a profession, like as a long time
Mm.
profession. But
Mm.
that's the reason why I got interested in pediatrics. That
Yeah.
there's always something for me. It has to be
Yeah.
something like an experience. And then
Yeah.
I get fascinated about it. And then,
Yeah.
yes. But was saying that I wrote that I was going to have like a private pediatric, because me that like even
And
coming to UK,
in London specifically, that's what you said. You said
if you
it was
say
going
this
to be in
beside
London.
Diola and Ido, they'll probably say someone that wanted to die in Guso. Because like they were the one that prompted me. The moment Diola did like her IELTS, and then she goes, and then she came to UK, did a plan one and plan two. And then she was like, oh, when are you going to go? And then Ido started like putting the pressure on me. You need to do IELTS, you need to do plan one and plan two. We need to move. This is not where we want to be. So I'm surprised. But
Yeah.
I think ultimately it's all like whatever like God plans for you would always come to pass. Maybe I was saying it like maybe I wrote that jokingly then. Maybe we were all just having a chat and that was when I was writing that.
Yeah.
But look at it.
Yeah.
This is where we are like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
And
I'm
uh,
surprised.
of course, with that story initially, I think I was a you didn't talk about it a lot.
No.
Um, um, but I think I was aware of partly, of course, not this deep. And of course, I think you know you can only hope and pray for the best moving forward, and for everyone that's departed, you remember them in their prayers. Yeah. Just a bit about how much work you had to put in. Just reflect a bit on how much work you had to put in from then, that aspiration to now.
Um, like I said earlier, like if I was in Nigeria, I probably wouldn't do pediatrics. I would have just stuck with my family medicine because that was the premise I did, to be fair as well. But I think, moving to the UK, and like you said, it was the opportunity that they gave us. That's why I found myself here. Um, but I had to prioritize. So reflecting, I had to prioritize. the job that I actually pick. Because I could remember, transitioning from NES. But even in NES, like I was so specific about, can you please take me to a hospital that actually take care of, young people, like
Mm,
children. And NES I'm grateful for them as well because they took me to Northfield, and Northfield would, like, they did have like a pediatric section and all of those things. And then I started, building up the portfolio. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm not going to lie, I've been fortunate. I've met like a lot of wonderful people that have kind of just directed me and then held my hands and all of those things. Um, and then just applying for my trust grade job. Um, I got like a lot of jobs then, like from adult medicine to I think surgery and all of those things. But and then the only pediatric that I got then was in London, and I contemplated because you can imagine London being very expensive and looking at the fact that, what, I'm not going to be able to save. But I was like, okay, I need to actually choose this job just so I can see if this is still what I wanted. And that was it. That job was like an eye opener for me. I'm not going to lie. Omartin Hospital, I say to myself, I'm still going to go back to that hospital, like, to work one way or the other. It was really nice. I
mm,
had a supervisor that the moment, and I'd already applied for pediatric training before I joined that job. But the moment I told my supervisor, he started just grooming me for it. You know, the kind of questions that they could ask me in interview if I get shortlisted. And it just matched me up with all this because how many English, like, we didn't know personally, as in we don't know, it's not personally, it's all Nigerians. We don't know how to, announce ourselves to say, this is what I've done, this is what I've achieved. And then he knew that, I think, from seeing and him being an IMG as well, he just made sure that he kind of matched me up with one of the F2s who then, taught me how to say, you have to say this. It's small, but you have to know how to, like, announce yourself. This is what I
yeah.
did. This is what I da 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 da. And then that was it. And thankfully, I got shortlisted. Um, and I got interviewed and I got that slot. Then here we are. And then
Yeah.
since then, like I said, I think I'm just like, I'm grateful. Everyone that I've met, everyone. There's always one person in a job that I'm doing that looks out for me, like genuinely. And then they tell me the moment I tell them about my aspirations, what I want to do, they have pointing me to say, this is what you need to do. My supervisor that I've had since my ST1, God bless that man. He's a South African. But God, this man genuinely would say, this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do. And then even when I was contemplating about what subspecialty, and that was what the interview was for, that I needed to interview, at some point in time, I started contemplating, should I do oncology and should I do neonate? And then he literally called me, very early in the morning and goes, you know what, I've known you for like what now, 5 years, and you've always talked about oncology. You struggled with neonates. And I think because now you've gone back to it and then you know your way around it, you think that's what you want to do. My advice to you is look at one consultant and then see, do I see myself doing this for the rest of my life? Is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? And if you cannot answer that question, or there is like a little bit of like a doubt, that specialty is not for you. However, apply for the two of them. But when it gets to you interviewing, if you get shortlisted, if you know you're not going to do it, please don't go for the interview. Just stick to
Mm,
one and stay with
mm,
it. So,
mm,
yes, reflecting, like me, I've just been favored. I've had people that look out for me. I've had people that tell me, and it's not just that, like even my friends, people that we are in the same grade together, people, some like, yeah, I'm not the best. I know my limitations, but I know people that are better than me, and I just listen to them. Like they genuinely look out for me and they tell me this is what you have to do to be able to achieve this. And I listen. Sometimes I don't listen, or I do as if I'm not listening, but I am listening to them because I know that they're looking. So I have been favored. And if we all find ourselves in that, position, I think just open and prayerfully, like, you get someone that genuinely looks out for you. And then that's the thing about the UK, like you said, it is a tick box. If you do all the right thing, you don't have to know anyone. You will get there. It might be a little bit, you might feel like you're a little bit slow, or you might have to do those things twice, or maybe three times sometimes. But if that's what you want to do, there is a list that you can tick to say, I've done this, I've done that, I've done this. And then you just have to announce yourself, speak out, I have done this. This is what I've achieved. Don't be shy to say that. I think I'm still struggling. And I've been in this country for like, what, 6 years now. And I still struggle with that. And we would always struggle, but we need to learn that. Look for that list. If there's anything that you want to do, and that's what I've done. If there's anything I want to do, I go write out the things I needed to achieve to get there, and then I start ticking them off. I start ticking them off. And yes, there's another thing, and it's not for anyone. I know we are not everyone is religious, and that is okay. But there's something I say about Kyrie, like if it is mine, I would get there. And that is it. And if it's not mine, if I don't get there, that would be okay as well. I have a backup plan. I know what I need to do to get there. So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so beautifully said. Um, and I think it also showcases your humility as well, at least to me, which is you're saying that you've had someone hold your hand or favor you in every role. um and I think it takes strength to actually be able to listen. Sometimes it depends on who you are, and I think that's your character, and I think it's part of hard work as well, being able to actually listen and actually modify things, because just like I always would say, medicine is acquired, but most of us have a set way of actually doing things. It takes work and constant work to actually be able to modify certain things, actually be able to improve on certain things, and that's what you do. You do it so beautiful, so beautifully. And I think you haven't mentioned that because you've wanted to like credit everyone else apart from yourself as regards how you got here. But I think that's very, very, very important. If anyone's going to pick anything from this, if anyone listens to this or picks anything, is one, you have to be able to listen. You have to be able to modify yourself, and then you have to be able to announce yourself, just like you said, and you have to be able to ask. I think that's one thing, at least for my own journey. I think that I have struggled with is ask. You understand? The You haven't heard a no yet until you ask. If you're assuming it's a no, then it's already a no because you haven't asked. But ask and get a no initially, and then you can look for other alternatives. But if you haven't asked, there is no way for you to know. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so moving on. But still staying around, work. What are the um like the differences in pediatric practice that you've noticed here compared to Nigeria? And if you were going to change a couple of things, what would those things be, in Nigeria to make it for, better practice?
Oh my God, there's a lot. There is a lot. I feel like, in fact, that can take the whole of our time. Like, there is a whole lot. And it would really, because I usually think about the fact that if I go back to Nigeria, I would like to like go back to Guso or something. I don't want it for the money. My friend is still there. So I feel like, oh, if I go there, to say hi to her, I would follow her to work and then go to their pediatrics and just help out, in clacking and then doing like a management plan. But I think one thing is, the accessibility to not just the health system, but to the investigations. The things that we only read about when we're in medical school, like it is here. There is no limitation. And I'm not saying, this in because we've all worked in both a tertiary NHS institution and then a DGH. And yes, there are some investigation that is not done locally in that DGH, but the availability, the ability to be able to send it. I've seen investigation being sent from Kettering to Bristol.
Mm.
like it's all those investigations for me. And maybe because it's a lot of money for the NHS as well, if you look at, this investigation. But one thing about them, and maybe that has taken, you know, the way we're doing, because in Nigeria, yes, we don't have access to all of this investigation, but we still come up with a management plan.
Mhm.
Yeah, we still do, but it means that we cannot say for a fact that this child has that particular,
Mm.
diagnosis. We just
Yeah.
know it would always be suspected.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It would always be
Yeah.
suspected. So I think personally for me, the availability of those investigations and then the accessibility to this health system and then to the specialist as well. I pray, God, I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know who is going to make it happen. Maybe it's going to be me, but
Maybe.
we need that back home. We need that back home. And it's not just that, even the common neonatal resuscitations, like I look at it. I remembered when, doing our house job, and then I go back because yes, they would call us for all those when I was doing pediatrics. They'll call us for all those elective C-sections, pediatricians after that. But then I don't remember us, giving the inflation breath first before we start doing every other thing because we need to like get the hair into the lung source so that the heart can start beating. There has to be air inside the lung before anything can happen. I
Mm.
feel like it's just the other way. I'm sure it's not like that again. No. I'm
Mm.
saying this from, back in, we did house job 2016, isn't it? Like, I'm saying this
Yeah,
back in
2016.
2016, 2017, thereabout. I'm sure it's not the same way. I'm sure there would have been some form of involvement as well. So it would not be the same thing as, what it was back in 2016, 2017. But I think it's all those things, like those little difference, those
Mhm.
and yes, it's not that NHS doesn't have its own, no, because if you look at the outpatient list as well, like in Nigeria, if you have your money now, you will get
Mhm.
access to anything. I think that's another thing, the money. Like you don't actually have to have money to get access to all of this, like
Yeah.
here in the UK. But in
Mm.
Nigeria, if you don't have the money, how would you even be able to like, go there? Even our government hospitals, you still have to pay one thing. It's not for free. Like you have to
Mm.
still pay for gloves. I look at how I just, take gloves from everywhere. And then I could remember I would tell patient that if you don't have glove, like you have to buy glove when you're coming to see me because I need that glove to like examine you. I'm like all those little things, and like I said, I think the way to change it is, translating all of this forward. I hope and I pray. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to, be on social media and say, oh, I see myself going back to Nigeria in 5 years or so, or no, I see myself going back to Nigeria in 5 years to practice. To be honest, and I still pay for my MDCN as well, but I pay for it because me and my own just mentality. But I don't see myself going back to Nigeria to practice again. I'm not going to lie. Maybe it will change after our conversation today.
Mhm.
Maybe I'll wake up tomorrow and have a change, of mindset and say that I
Mhm.
want to do that. But I just feel like I can't go back there because I would feel like I'm not giving it my all. Does that make sense
Mhm.
to you?
Yeah.
Because if I go back to practice, even if I go back to say I want to have my own, institution, oh my run down, it's
Mm.
not even like there's no need to because like I said, I'll end up just giving everything out. And then me too, I'll
Everything.
just go bankrupt and then pack my load and come back to, familiarity again or all of those things,
Mm.
or just go back to my house and start enjoying my pension or my retirement. But
Mm.
I think um and this is me, the way we can change it is just they said Sorosoke. I'm sure that one is gone from last year. It's
Mhm.
just we know, because we all now have tentacles, isn't it? We are all now forming relations and all of those things. We meet
Mm.
these people who, their parents are in politics. If we can't let them know so that they can say it beside their parents.
Mm.
Because we do have it can happen. And we can all go, if that facility is there, we can all take that back home one
Yeah.
thing, and I think I've seen people say like maybe create an initiative where some of us would go back, go and teach. But if I know Nigeria as well, we are strong-headed. I don't think anyone wants
Mm.
to come. Like I don't think anyone would listen to us if you say, "Oh, we want to come and teach you the things that we've learned in UK." Like a 5-day seminar or something. We all go to different
Mm.
hospitals and we work. Maybe it's
Mm.
something. Maybe it's an initiative that someone can bring where every time, like maybe every 3 months 10 people or something would go to this place and put things in place, things that we've seen. that works, because it's not everything that works. There's no island that is perfect.
Mm.
That's the truth. And ultimately, Nigeria is still home. It will forever be home. But things that work, if we take it back, like even if it is small thing like putting gloves where patient don't have to buy gloves before they see their doctors. Like
Yeah.
doctors just take it and examine
Yeah.
you. Let
Mm.
take that responsibility from them, because it's not
Mm.
cheap as well.
Mm.
I remember they don't buy the normal, blue gloves that way. They buy surgical gloves. That's what they used to go and buy to give us. And
Yeah.
that so things like that, things like
Mm.
small. We used to have full block count and all of CRP and all of those things. Yes, sir. We were doing that, but genetics testing so
Mm.
that people can plan, so that you don't have the same. I met a young person, like, of recent, that they didn't know that they had SMA, not until they got here.
Mm. Mm.
Like, and this parent said it to me because they realized that I speak the same language as them.
Mm.
And then he said, honestly, in one of the hospitals, because Nigerian doctors are intelligent. I am
Mm.
going to say that out loud anywhere. My consultants, my lecturers are really intelligent. And
Mm.
they go, someone actually mentioned it. This is not the first time that we are hearing the word SMA.
Mhm.
Someone mentioned it back home, but the only thing is they didn't go a step further to investigate for it. But
Escape.
how would they? We don't even
Mm.
have that facility.
Yeah. Yeah.
Little things like social services. I know some of us, I'm sure UI has a course about social something something in that their uni.
Yeah.
Where are those people that are graduating? Where are they? Like things like that, so that to
Yeah.
safety of vulnerable people and all of those things. So that the things I want to see, small, small things. I don't even need them to, make, the healthcare system free. It's okay. People can still pay for it. But all those
Yeah.
small, small things that make things
Yeah.
better, these are the
Yeah.
things we want to see changes. And I don't have the power yet. I don't have the capability yet. Maybe I would have it. Maybe I would never have it. Maybe it will be the words of my mouth that I can say to someone that it would get to the right person's ear. But this is where I want to see us.
Yeah,
This is
yeah. I think that's just so beautifully put. And those were, those 2 points were what I also had in mind. When we were in FMC Katsina for house job, and we were doing our pediatric post in there was, especially in their SCBU, I was coming there at a time whereby, there was lots of cannulas and it was, you could just grab them and then use them. And by the time we were leaving, everything had been exhausted and we had to wait until, the relative. And I don't know if you know Katina
yeah.
well. Some people will come from Kankia or something like that, and they're not very well to do, and you expect them to actually come and then start running about to get things. Some people would have to go back to their villages and like sell um, their cattle for them. So, with that, you would think about, lives that maybe you could have been saved with those little things without the delays. And the other thing you mentioned is the social services, which is, you know, I think here, and GP specifically is where I started thinking more about the social context of where everyone lives. This is not just pediatrics wise. You started thinking about safeguarding safeguarding issues. You started thinking about could there be any harm. You started thinking about, okay, yes, this is what the guideline says, but giving the patient a voice to say, okay, what are the things that you'd want to what do you want to do now? These are the options that we've got. So those 2 things in particular are what stood out for me as changed. You understand in my personal sort of practice, especially the safeguarding bit. I'm not sure, and even up to now, sometimes I still don't. Because I feel as though in myself, my first job is to ensure that the illness is treated.
You
Not,
forget the
not, not
social part.
yes, not necessarily okay, there's one safeguarding bit or another, but yeah, I think from what you said, I think it's I think going forward, I think there will be changes. I'm very sure they just like you said, they probably are already changes
Yeah.
because
Okay.
the world is very interconnected now. You can always look up what your colleagues are doing in other places, and if you have the resources, absolutely implement it yourself. Um, moving on to a bit. How was the transition here for you? How was it?
Mm.
Not medically, sort of the
Yeah.
the social bit. How did
Yes.
you cope with the transition?
Um, it's a big change, I'm not going to lie. And I think personally for me, my smile mask a lot of things because now people that I work with, no, in fact, since I moved here, everyone goes, "Oh, you're a very friendly person." But my smile mostly, yes, I try to be, maybe I'm not the same person outside work, at work. I tend to be like really friendly to I because I don't want to have anything to do with anyone. I just want to do my job, make sure that I do the right thing, and then I go home. I can be a mad person after outside work. But the culture, God, there's a lot of things. You know how I'm having to call older people like my own grandparent. I think that was the first thing. And I think people noticed in my first job because I could not. Just had to put mama something there. Because I'm like, why do I want to call you by your first name?
Let's see.
It doesn't make any now. I'm trying, but I still put like mama or auntie. In fact, even Nigerians that I work with, I don't care. Even if when I'm older than like they all go, why are you putting auntie? I was like, well, I'm from Nigeria first before anything. So I think, those things, the fact that calling people by their first name, that was a shock to me and I struggled. But like I said, the fact that I always smile, people didn't know I was struggling with that. I would just feel like mama something, or I do not even mention their name. I will just go and stay beside them and then I start talking to them. So I think that's number one. I think the other thing was I can't wake up in Nigeria and not greet people. And I know my neighbors. I would say hi to my neighbors. I think, and that is still going on even right now. Like you see people and I'm not even people that I work with because I tell my friend I'm like, oh, I tell these people good morning and then and they don't respond to me and then I do it and it's not that they hate me, oh, they don't, they just not, maybe they didn't, maybe they were not even concentrating on that part and they didn't feel the need to like answer, and then my friend will be like, then stop saying it to them, and I'm like, I'm just really struggling. So sometimes I catch myself, like I say it, and then the next day I don't say it. And maybe, I'm getting used to that custom as well, and I'm doing the same thing, but it's still a shock to me till now. Yeah. When you see people or my neighbor, like I know that the person staying beside me, I know the person staying like opposite me. I know for a fact that they're Nigerians, but I never say hi to them. Like I never say hi to them. And that is bad. That is really, really bad. Like I've seen them, I've heard them. If I had one like opposite my street, I've heard them speak Hausa and I'm like, I do understand that. But do you get what I'm trying to say? It wouldn't take anything for me, but that is still, a cultural shock to me. And I think the
Yeah.
facts where, and this God, I need to be censored for this, but I think how people are just, when they say you cannot shame the shameless, that's another thing where people just go out, even us that was, smoking everywhere, doing all those things everywhere. I'm like, oh God, what is this? But like I said, I'm not here to judge anyone. If that
Yeah.
you are entitled to what you think is right to you, right for you, you are entitled to your opinion. But I think those things, like we would genuinely be don't let me use the word shameful. We would genuinely be shy about doing all of those things back home. And
Yeah.
I still
Yeah.
struggle. And like I said, this is my sixth year in this country,
Yeah.
and I'm still
Yeah.
struggling with it.
Yeah.
But they said when you cannot behave like a Roman when you are in Rome or whatever it is that they say. But yeah, I
One
think those are the cultural, maybe
one
those are the
thing.
ones that I genuinely can say on the social media. Other
Yeah,
things.
yeah, absolutely. One thing that you said that, the first part of your story was, very shocking to me too. There are some people that, we will be working together when I was still like in London, like working. And we'll be working together. We would have worked together 8 to 5. And then, once we leave, we like meet on the bus. And then they literally will take their face and like turn it away from me. I was like, what did I do to you? We're just literally just smiling. I just want to say hi and, catch up and things like that. No. There was one experience I had. One of the TPDs that, one of my previous TPDs, and we were pretty close. And, we were just outside work. We were just like walking along the alley. The alley was like a really narrow alley. There's no way you could have said that you did not see me. You understand? And I was, smiling and getting ready to say hi. And he literally, I think the way he turned his neck would have hurt his neck. Like the way he turned it to the other, I was like, means I just like boned and just walked away. It is, it's a bit of, it feels rude, like that I'm going to see you outside, I'm not going to say hi. But it seems like that's just the way it is here.
Is the norm. Yeah. My friend
One
has
of
had
that
the same thing and they've said the same thing before. I'm like, it's fine.
one of that bit about transitioning I wanted to say is, with me coming here, I came alone. I think you came with Ido, I think.
Yeah, we came together.
Yes, I came alone in November in the middle of COVID. I think it was
Yeah.
September or something in the middle of COVID. And I was so miserable. I was so miserable. I did not know things. I did not know my way around. I kept, getting on the bus that was going on the opposite direction. And and I had, I didn't come with a lot of money. I remember it was you paid my rent from Nigeria then. You might not remember, but you
I
paid my
remember.
rent. Yeah, you paid my rent initially. Um, and then you and Ido also came to visit me.
Yeah, because you brought some stuffs for hers, isn't it? And then
Yes,
we came
and
over
you
to your side.
came, and then you could not even enter because I was living in a shared apartment and it was the middle of COVID and the landlord
Yeah.
was sort of. And you brought me things. You brought me like steel. You brought me like
Oh
coke
yeah, that's
and
true.
things like that. And I did not say this to you then about how much I was struggling. Then I think I was a couple of days out from getting paid, and I had like £50 left, but I had lost my wallet on the on the bus,
My
so
God, you
I
didn't
did
say
not have
anything.
I did not have any money, and I literally for the next 3 days lived on what you guys brought me. Like
Oh my
3 days. It
God.
was like I think it was like a stew of A4, and I think I had food at home, and then the cook, and I will go to work, and
I
then I
never would
will.
have imagined though. Like you never said anything.
I did.
Like
I
I
did.
never ever. Oh my God.
I didn't say because at that point I was already owing you money, and
Yeah, but it didn't
you
matter
had
because someone
already. I
supported
know.
me when
I
I
know.
came.
I know. Looking back now, of course, and I just did not want to be a bother. But you know, that transition was so difficult. And what you guys did for me, you and Ido, at that point, at that critical point, it might look small. You don't even remember it. But
No.
there is no time that I tell the story of my transition in the UK that I don't tell people about that moment of like kindness. I was having so much trouble adjusting. I was having
Yeah, I can imagine.
tension with my landlord because I just did not like the way they were behaving. And I was broke. And then you guys came through, and it felt like okay, maybe because at that point, part of my consideration was, man, do I need to go back? Because I was alone, I was cold.
Really?
It was cold. Yes, it was cold. I was in there,
Oh my God.
and it is one story I've always wanted to tell you an idea about that point in my life because you know it was striking.
Oh.
It was
Honestly,
striking.
you could have said something. Like I
It
said
was
to you,
striking.
okay, well, you have said it now. I'm sure you've learned. Like, if we don't ask, you never would know. I would, and like I said, this is what I meant. This is what I said about, always haven't found, just someone, like one favor. Then, and when I say it to my, because I would normally just go back and tell my mom and my sister, and then my mom would make joke about that's your dad, coming in someone form to like help you. Even now, like this house that we are living, like randomly, we just met someone, one of the builders. And this man, oh my God, is an elder. Literally, he calls Jamiloju his grandson, and every year Jamiloju's birthday, he is buying gifts. He gave Jamiloju, like he's an Irish. He gave
Mm.
Jamiloju like an Irish name and all of those things. He buys gifts, he buys like ornaments that Jamiloju's name is, encrusted in it and all of this. My mom literally just said that was your dad. Like this man would, when we build our house, when you call the builders, because for the first 2 years, you can still call them. But
Yeah.
yes, they were quite, they would, respond to us. But this man, like the moment I tell him, even now that he's left, this job, if I tell him something is happening in our house, he will just tell one of them and you will just see them. I don't know this person from anywhere. And I feel like if you had said something, because look at me, like when we first came, I didn't ask Diola, for money. She literally just said, send your account to me. And then she sent it to me. She's like, you can return it anytime you like. But honestly, I never would have thought that you at any point struggled with anything. I knew that it could
Right.
have been a little bit because you went into NHS. I went into NES anyway when I first came. So mine was a little bit looking at is a small area. There's no like a lot of tension like NHS. But I didn't know, like I could never have guessed that
Yeah.
anything was going on with you.
It was.
Oh,
It
really?
is. It is a big step. It is a
Oh
big
my
step. And I tell
God.
and I,
I
and I
didn't
tell
know.
I tell it I tell it every time. Every time you will. It just pays to be kind. Everyone will
Yeah,
remember the time
that's true. It
that
will
you
be
were
fun.
kind. That you were kind to them. Um,
Oh, I didn't know.
going back a little, going back a little bit before we came, which is medical school. How was medical school for you?
Oh.
I've had varying answers to this question. For some people, it was the time of their lives. For Jimmy, I know it was the time of his life,
Of
particular.
course, it
When
was
I
Jimmy's
asked,
time of his life. What do you mean? Jimmy was a big boy. He was chopping life.
when I asked him, so how was it for you? How was the experience?
Um, I probably wouldn't say it was a time of my life. Like, the best time of my life or anything. I probably wouldn't, I didn't feel like I formed like a lot of alliance with a lot of people. I had like, but that probably wasn't even their fault. It's probably, all on me. Because if I reflect back on it now, your decision, the way you act, it's all on you. You can decide to like take it any way forward. However, personally for me, I think it was just something that I needed to do. Like I needed to, make my parents proud. So it was everyday tension. Like I cannot fail. I cannot be sent out of medical school. And God bless, other people that had, other experience. And I'm not saying this, to make a joke or anything for them, but it was a struggle. I'm not going to lie. Like every day in medical school, like I think I was most prayerful or most religious when I was in medical school. Everything. Like I would lead, I look at myself back now and I'm like, I'm not as religious as I used to be. Like, yes, I still don't open my ear or anything like that. I still try to be like a good Muslim and all of those things and a good human being generally. But I was really, 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 really religious. And it wasn't because of anything. It was just because I was counting on God to say, please, 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 I need to like, you know, I need to always move. I don't care. I'm not looking to be the best student. You know what? I just wanted to pass, have my 50 and just move. Keep it moving, keep it moving, keep it moving until I just get out. And even at that point, I think it was just about, just my mom has always wanted me to be a doctor. She's always, and for a long
Yeah,
time, like I couldn't even tell people to say, because I was so afraid that what if I get, thrown out? I shouldn't be
yeah,
telling people yet. All of those things. So for me, it was it was every day, or take it at a time and just keep it moving. Some people had fun, like you said, Folajimi had fun. And you know what? Jimmy is a brilliant person because he didn't like he was quite intelligent. So he was quite intelligent both in his books and outside his book, like socially. I just got
Yeah.
tagged along. Even the social bit, I think I just tagged along, with Diola and all
Yeah.
of those things, saying that. And then initially with them Fei-Kemi and Tolu, because I went to the same school with Tolu, and then
Mhm.
Fei-Kemi were really close and all of those things. So my social bit was always like a tag along, but it was all about getting it moving, keeping it moving,
Yeah.
finishing,
Yeah.
finishing. That was it.
Yeah. Looking back,
That's
also, medical school always, conveyed the feeling of, you know, everything was so, on the line. If you get what I'm trying to say, it feels like you could not put a step wrong. Otherwise, everything would be catastrophic.
how. Yeah,
So you came out of that you know especially like towards the MBA exam, it felt like the whole world was going to crash. And
it
I I
was.
I say that recognizing the fact that for some people the exam did not go as they would have wanted, and altered what their trajectory um was. But part of me just feels as though, at least personally, that I left medical school now catastrophizing every decision I have to make. It feels like every decision I have to make is the end of the world now. And that was learned in medical school. And it's not, sometimes it's just not, sometimes it's just you just have to let your hair down. And if it happens, it happens. If it does not, then yeah, life goes on. Life
I
goes on.
probably wouldn't think like this in medical school, I'm not going to like if it doesn't happen, life goes on. It's just now that it's like if it doesn't happen, you know what, life goes on. There's a backup plan. But in
Mhm,
medical
mhm.
school, I would never think of it. And come on, it was easy for you. What were you saying? You
Was
you were like you were
was
bookish, and then you still had your. But people like us, God, we just wanted that 50. I was like, God,
God.
please. No receipt, no. And then, oh God. And then when I had to receive that is it pharmacology or something? God, it felt like my life
That
was
was
going to end.
yeah.
Like I think I went back into there, during when we were doing the MCQ, and then I was literally crying because it
Right.
wasn't because I failed the MCQ or something. It was that OSCE with one of the examiner saying that I rolled my eyes, and maybe I did. You know what? When I reflect about it, I think maybe they were saying something or something, and I rolled my eyes, and that got to them, and because of that, it was just an automatic veto failure for me. But you know what? I would never in my life, if I have to kiss your ass, to like if I have to go back there, if I needed to kiss that person's ass, I would have kissed it so I can just go and never have a receipt. Like I'm like, what? What? Because it took me forever to even like tell my parents about it as well. But yeah. See, medical school, I don't know how it was for some other people. Some people had fun, but me, no, it wasn't fun.
The
Just keeping it moving.
part part one results. Can you remember what your part one result was?
Yeah, it was like 50, 50, 50.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I only had 51, maybe in biochemistry or something. It was like 50
Yeah.
something, 50
I
something.
remember I remember reflecting that. I remember looking at that. I was like, yeah, that if there is anything like grace, that is grace. And it wasn't.
that
It was
was
not.
it.
It was not only. It was not only you. It wasn't like a couple of other people. Like a couple of other people as well. I think my biochemistry was also like 50 or 51 or something like
God, I
something close.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. That is sort of good. Going away from like medicine and stuff. How was it? Growing up
Like growing up, why
at
medical school or
home,
generally?
just
Oh,
generally, apart from medical school, away from medical school. I done with medicine though.
so generally, I think growing up, the responsibility of a firstborn child and a child, like we lived in a family house. Like I was from a very big, you know, I'm still, why did I say I was? I'm still from a very big, family and all of those things. And there's always, and like I said, if I reflect back on it now, you have a choice with your opinion. It's okay for you to have an opinion, but I think it was just always like you are in competition with someone, or you're just trying to like protect you against something. So because my mom is a teacher and I didn't go to the same school as myself, I lived in the same compound with my cousins. And but I didn't go to the same school with them because my mom was teaching outside, of the states. We live in Oyo, and my mom was teaching in Ogbomoso then. So I went to Ogbomoso and all of those things. But whenever you come back, and then when everyone, it's always like a shh. You're not allowed to like say this. And honestly, like you're not allowed to like, you know, say things out, what you want or what you've achieved and all of those things. I think personally for me, it was like that. But otherwise, I did have like a pretty good, fun time with my cousins and all of those things. Looking at the fact that we all grew up in the same, compound, and we have our own little, you know, small size, and then we do and all of those
Mhm.
things. But I think it was just always that responsibility. I need to do it. I need to like, be good. There was no chance to actually be a child, if that makes sense. I would give my
Mhm.
child that opportunity. I don't care what my child does. I don't even care
Mhm.
if my child be a doctor, if I'm being honest with you. But
Mhm.
then I'd I'd been groomed for that. So it was always something dependent on something. I
Yeah.
was already at, I was already going to summer classes since when I was in
Mhm.
primary one. Who does that?
Mhm.
Please, what is someone
Eh,
in primary one?
A
What are
lot of
they?
people, apparently.
A lot of people. So it wasn't even just me. But I don't know. The fact that there was no. So there's always pros and cons. Like I said, I enjoyed like growing up with my cousins, and I enjoyed the fact that I have a bit that I know each and every one of them, and I know who I want to like, be in the same space with. I know who I don't want to be in the same space with, even though it shouldn't be like that because we grow. Whatever it is that I felt like I knew about them, they might have outgrown it. But that thing is still there. This is who I want to be with, this is who I want to be with, and all of those things. And then the fact that there's just always, you are living with someone's standard. You are living, because you have to do that thing. You're not allowed to transgress. That's the word. You're not allowed to transgress. You're allowed to do things a certain way. And then like that, and it was just I feel like it was a lot of responsibility. But maybe that is what has molded me into where I am today. So sometimes when I look at it, I'm more wise for it, but maybe I don't want it. I don't want that. I don't want my child to feel that kind of way, but I don't regret it, if that makes any sense. Does that make sense? I feel like it's
Yeah.
the reason why I am where I am. It's the reason why people look at me today and be like, you know what, you're a good person. You are, because I have seen that and I know what it is. And I don't want someone to be like that. Does that make sense? But
Makes sense.
yeah, I don't want my child to grow like that. I'm not going to. I want my child to be free spirited. I want my child to, I don't want them to be a rude person as well. I don't want them to always talk back at people, but I want to listen to them. I want to hear what their opinion is, even though if I would still like routinely say, don't worry, my opinion is still the one that will supersede yours, but I want to listen to them. So that is the difference. But all well and good. Here we are. If I didn't have that
Yeah.
background, I would not be where I am. So,
I think I think also there is pressure that comes with being like the first child. There's always that pressure. You understand? Which is, I think the parents feel as though, if I get it right with you, then that can have a knock-on effects down the line. So most of the time, the pressures on the first child is always not the same as everyone subsequently, because there's an African thing that is that by the time you get it right with the first one, then the first one can actually chip in with the other ones as well, and with that, everything would be straight. The There is a communality that with Africa, or with Nigeria. Let me just put it, or with where we grew up, which is everyone can correct you, everyone can discipline you, everyone can you know modify your behavior if there's anything wrong. That is that is missing here. And how do you see that, especially given that you are raising a kid? How do you see that? Are you someone that you would think, okay, it's actually much better because I then tend to instill just my own values in the kid and no one else? Or you feel as though because children by the time it gets by the time it gets they get to a certain age, your voice becomes old, isn't it?
Yeah.
And by the time they push and they know that there are certain things that they can do without consequences, then they start to form their own sort of personalities. How do you see that, given that you're raising a kid? Do you think that's a plus, that this is personally your mini me, you and your husband's mini me, and not your neighbors? There's no neighbor contribution, there is no cousin contribution to this, to how this child is growing, or or the whole community raising a child. How do you see that?
Should I tell you the truth? I actually don't like the fact that the community raising a child. I don't like it. I feel like um in fact my mom, I think because of that, she's always said, Oyinbo nye, oti do Oyinbo and all of those things. Because I'm of the opinion that, see, yeah, I want you to tell me when my child is doing something wrong. Yeah. But I don't want you going to my child and accosting them. I would rather appreciate it if you tell me and let me do it my way. I think because ultimately, and I do it. So I am a lover of do what like do what you preach. I don't tell off or I don't, insult other people's children. I have never done it before in my life and I would never do it. I don't give my opinion about another person's child. I think he's wrong. And like I said, we all have a right to our opinion. And someone else might be, you know what, that's wrong. It's what shaped us to what it, but I don't like it. I don't like it when people see, when we're growing up and then people be like, look at what you're wearing. Look at how you're dressed. And I think that is really rude. And when my mom does it, I tell her it's wrong. I think tell me, and then let me do what I want to do with my child.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people that like, other people, insulting my child or correcting my child or something. I'm not saying that I am right, but like I said, I don't like, I just don't want someone diminishing my child's confidence. I want my child to be able to speak up for themselves. Not in a rude way, like I said. I want to raise a child that knows, that have a sense in them. I don't want a rude child. But at the same time, I don't appreciate it if an adult talks down on my child. You tell me, and then let me do the needful to my child.
That's
That is my
that,
opinion. But
that's great. Sort of like hitting the home stretch now. I usually would ask this question: what are the three people who you think have impacted your life and your journey the most, and why?
hmm, I've actually never thought of that. There's like a lot of people. But I think first thing first is people that actually, pushed me to actually take the step um to come here. Idowu, my husband, and then Diola said they didn't push me. Maybe Diola pushed me and but she allowed me to like, do my thing. But Idowu literally pushed me. Like it was like, and then the money and everything, it wasn't just my money. It was both of us. It has to be one of us first, and then the other person can do after the next person. And I think without that, I'm not going to lie, I probably would still be in so, and I probably would, no, I would have maybe left now. Maybe my parents would have said, oh, yeah, it's time for you to come home with all the things that, but I don't think it would have been bad because my friend is still there. And thankfully, nothing has happened to her. My uncle has left there now anyway. Maybe, like I said, maybe I would have left because my family would then have been worried. But yeah, my husband, as one instrumental person that has got me far. Yeah. Oh, and like I said, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that, and this is not. overlooking anyone that has helped in my journey and all of those things. Because I could mention my family, I could mention my friends and all of those things. But I think another person is my educational supervisor, like Gary Stifel. God, that man is an angel. In fact, even my friends that I'm in training with, they look at me and be like, "Oh, he's your sugar daddy," and all of those things. Because it's how I send them a text message, like, "Is my body," to say, "Oh, I've done this, I've done that. What do you think?" and all of those things. And when I first started in ST1, like, I struggled with the portfolio. It literally, like, I'm not kidding you, Kola. This guy would say, "Write everything that you've achieved this week." I was literally meeting him like every other week, and he
Mm,
would guide me, you know, to type them, to know what I needed to link them to and submit. And then whatever it teaches me, I then go back to teach my other Jolly Just Comes, like all of them.
mm,
We all
mm,
just, like, it was literally the student. And it's still my supervisor, and they probably will change him pretty soon because I'm going into ST5 and all of those things. But if I could have him, I would still have him. And the last person is someone that I met here, and people look at us and they feel like, oh, like they feel like we've been friends since back in fact, some people felt like we've been friends back in Nigeria. Like, her name is Naja. And I got introduced to her by another person that we did clap two together. This
mm.
person, like, we met, when how Samson would say group of five so that we can do discounts.
Yeah.
That's how I met this lady. So she
Mm,
went to the same primary school, secondary school we had. They lived in the same community in Abuja. But this babe has been a fantastic human being. Me, yeah, I
mm,
would not. I'm not one person that want to like do cha 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 and go to like other people's. It's like from work to home. But this
mm,
lady, God, she's been a great person. Like, from, we starting training together, to me going on maternity leave, to her helping me, supporting me, and all of those things, God telling me. And this is what I mean by listen to people. Like, you might be in the same, process and all of those things, but some people, and it's not about, the books. It's not about they know book more than you, but some people, God has just given it to them.
mm,
Like, God has just given them that brain.
mm,
Just listen to them, because that might be the person that God has sent to you to like guide you, to help you through life. This babe has been a lifesaver and more. Like,
mm,
everything. Someone that would just be like, oh, I could remember when I wanted to do when I was doing, the MRCPCH exam, and I'd done, I'd done the FOP, that's the first one, even before I came into training, and I failed it.
mm,
And then I decided, okay, let me just, when I started training, let me just do the first one, like two exams together. And thankfully I passed it, and I passed it beautifully.
mm,
And I was going to take a break, like I was going to take my time, because all you have to do is finish the four exams before you start, as a registrar and all of those things. But she goes, do it now, like do it back to back when you have, like, she literally pushed me. And I kid
mm.
you not, like, I did this exam in 1 year, and I
Oh, yeah.
didn't look, like, I passed it beautifully, like beautifully, not small, like really
Mhm.
well. Me that my 50-50, just let me go. But and I could remember one of those times, it was when we were moving between London to Leicester, and it was like we're living from pay slip, paycheck to
Yeah.
paycheck and all of those
Yeah.
things. And she goes, I can pay for the exams. I don't know this girl
Mm,
from anywhere, Kola. I've never
mm,
met her before. I only met her when we started training,
mm,
like 2021 August. And even that 2021 August, because our first rotation, we're not in the same place. She was in a different place and I was in a different place. So we only met like one day when she came. So it was
mm,
just mainly phone and all of those things. We studied together for a bit. And then when she was moving back to Leicester, because our next rotation was in Leicester, and we had been in Leicester anyway, literally, she was like, I would pay for it. I'm like, are you my father? Honestly, she goes, I would, until now, like, she does the same thing. Like, she'll be like, if you don't have the money, I can give you, you can pay me back later. Things
mm,
like that.
mm.
She's not my family. I feel like these are people that, God has literally, placed in my path. And I'm grateful for them. And like I said, it's not limited to them. There is a lot of people in
Yes,
my life. I've met a lot of wonderful people, old and new, you inclusive, Sururo.
Yeah.
Everyone
Yeah.
has just, I've just had it good. Like you said earlier when we started, you go, oh, I've not seen you in a while. But it doesn't matter. Like we hook up and then we just, there's nothing
Continue.
like, oh, you've not called me in a while.
Continue.
Because of that, we are not friends again and all of those things. We just moved on. Like we've not missed 2 years
Yeah.
of each other's life. We've not missed 1.5 years of each other's life.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for that. But those three
Yeah.
people or four
It's
people,
been
because I've
wonderful.
somehow muddled up Diola into it and then they went into one because they are the
Yeah.
reason why I'm going to start one to
Yeah.
start with. And then my
Yeah.
supervisor and my friend. But I am
Yeah.
grateful for this. I am grateful to God. God, I am grateful to God, 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 God. Like one name is not enough because little me. What are we talking about? Like me, fragile me. That people will be like, let's just help out and all of those things.
Oh
Like, look
God.
at me here.
That's
I'm
so
about like I'm ST5 pediatrics. Like I'm going into ST5 pediatrics. I'm like, what? How did I even get it? I could remember when I needed to start my first registrar job. I'm like, are you sure I'm ready for this job? Me, I want to be
so sure.
SHO for the rest of my life. Like, how am I the one that is now responsible for other junior doctors and then all those things? But
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
here, like all the way from Lautech. What am I
Yeah.
saying? Like, and then this is where we are. Like, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for Lautech as well. I'm not going to lie because, like, I used to tell people, there's no way my parents could have afford to like send me outside Nigeria to study medicine. Lautech
Mhm.
was it for me.
What was
So,
it?
you know, I'm if I didn't have that background, studying medicine from Lautech, I would not be here. I used to say it like, I cannot, there's no way I would be able to afford, like, how much are people paying for masters now?
No. Yeah.
No, I
7,000.
can't afford. There's no way I'm going to be able to afford. I'm going to still be in Nigeria. So
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for the background. I'm grateful for the fact that I studied medicine and then I was able to like push myself and then get here. But I am grateful. And I'm grateful to myself as well. For being this me, persevering and then being here. So you know what? I'm grateful to everyone.
that is that is
So
that is
yeah.
so beautifully put. That's so beautiful. So, so the last question I tend to ask is a bit, I call it fake deep, but it is deep. When this is all said and done, how would you want to be remembered?
Hmm. I want to be remembered as a kind person, honestly. That is what I want to be. I know that people look at me and say you're very kind, and I tell them, oh, I'm not that kind. It's just because I work, but I'm lying. I want to be remembered as a kind person. Because, like I said, like I always say, I don't know what someone else is going through. I want to be that kind. I don't need to know that. I don't need them to tell me, but I want to be kind to them. I don't have to know your background. I just want to be kind to you. That is it. I just want to be a kind person. And I don't know if I'm doing it right. I don't know if I'm doing it every day, but I try to like nudge myself when I feel like I'm sleeping to say, you need to be kind. You don't know what this person is going through. It might just be you. It might
Mm,
just be that, ray of sunshine. It might just be, and I talk a lot. It might just be the word of my mouth. But I like, that is all I want. I just want to be kind. I want to be remembered as a kind person. That's it. Just a kind person. One word, kind
mm.
to everyone. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your background is. I just want to be kind to you. That's it.
Dr. Yusuf, thank you for coming.
Yeah. You're welcome.